Hello everyone, Highlander here from MTG Cardsmith doing another custom Magic the Gathering card review, and today we're reviewing another card by Commando, a newman to the channel, and we got a card here called Gambit of Temptation. Gambit of Temptation. So, 2 black green for a sorcery, cleave 6. Good old cleave. Each opponent may puts the top, right, got it. The top, it's just a little awkward, reads a little awkward. Each opponent may puts, the top, what if you have brackets around this S? No, that wouldn't work, because then it would still say may puts. Each opponent may put the top 5 cards of their library into their graveyard. Then returns a random creature card from their graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Each player who returned a creature to the battlefield this way puts a random creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. Wow, okay, this card is a little bit complicated. So let's ignore the cleave for a moment. So everybody gets to choose if they want to mill 5. Yeah. Oh, well, that's an easy fix to this put. So you just say each opponent may mill 5 cards, right? I mean, mill is you can use mill now. So each opponent may mill 5 cards. Period. Then each opponent returns a random creature card from their graveyard to the battlefield under your control. Each player who returned a creature card to the battlefield this way, yeah, got it, puts a random creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. Okay. And if you pay 2 more mana, you force them to mill. Okay. So I kind of have to separate my player from my designer brain here for a minute. As a player, I do not like this card, and I would never play it. I don't like cards with this much variance, right? It's like, okay, so if I cast this for 4, I got to make sure they already have something in their graveyard, because they might not mill a creature. I mean, or they probably won't. They'll probably choose not to mill, but maybe they will. Who knows? And then you get a random creature, and then they get a random creature. So, okay, so you've played this card. So you're down a card. You go up a card for each opponent. Let's say it's a 2-player game. Let's just say it's a 2-player game to keep things simple. You get a 1-for-1. Presumably, assuming they already have a creature in their graveyard. You get a random creature out of their graveyard. There's a lot of variance, right? Because even if you're thinking about this from a 2-player perspective, right? Think about how much variance there is with this card. So they can choose whether or not to mill. They may or may not already have a creature in their graveyard. They may or may not already have 2 creatures in their graveyard, right? Now, you may or may not get a creature. They may or may not get a creature. And the creatures that each player may or may not get are random. So, like, determining the outcome of this is like a slot machine card, right? I mean, yeah, you called it a Gambit. So let's assume both players get a creature. There are situations where they only have 1 creature in the graveyard, and then you kind of get the better end of the deal. But assuming both players get a creature, you've paid a card for a creature. They have paid 0 cards for a creature, so they actually go up in value. It's actually better for them, at least raw card advantage wise. Now, obviously, the creature's random, so like who knows? Like maybe they get a 1/1 and you get a 10/10, right? But just talking about raw card advantage, you actually go down. This is actually bad value for you if they get a creature. So actually, I think they are pretty incentivized to mill generally, because like okay. So if you want to get the best value out of this, you like kind of don't want them to mill, and you want them to have one creature in their graveyard, because then you at least have some control over what's happening, right? Giving your opponent the choice whether to mill or not is actually... It is technically worse, but not that much worse than your opponent just milling. Because I think a lot of the time, if you cast this, unless your opponent has no creatures in their graveyard, they're probably going to choose to mill most of the time, so that they have the best chance of getting a good creature out of the deal, right? Now, in a multiplayer game, you do end up getting more value out of this card if you happen to resurrect, 2 creatures or whatever. Again, these creatures are completely random. It hurts my brain to think about like all the possible variations for this card. So that kind of brings me to my designer brain, which, like, just thinking about this card kind of hurts my brain. Like, thinking about, there's just so much variance involved in this card, that I think it's maybe just a little bit too much for its own good. Honestly, if this were my card, and I don't tend to design cards like this, but if this were my card, I might end up doing it like this. Let's say like each opponent mills, let's say 3 cards. Okay, so this is for like 4, I guess. So 2 black, green. Let's say each opponent mills 2 cards for that cost. Each opponent mills 2 cards. Then, for each opponent, put a random creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Bracket. Then, each opponent puts a... Okay, then then for each opponent, put a random creature card from their graveyard on the battlefield under control. Then each opponent puts a random creature card from their graveyard onto the battlefield under their control. Period. And we'll do like a cleave of... Oh, I don't know. I mean, we can say 6. I don't know if that's actually correct, but I mean, it's pretty powerful, but it is random. So I would probably do something like this personally. This removes a lot of the variance. I mean, there's still a lot of variance here, right? The fact that they're milling 2 cards. That's the card, or however many cards you decide to mill here. I mean, 5 is a lot, but whatever, sure. Like 5, 4, 3, who knows? You can mess with the numbers, but this adds randomness to it. You get a random creature from each graveyard, but at least if you cast this for 6, you're sort of guaranteed value. Not guaranteed. Okay, there's some situations where nobody has any creatures in their graveyard even after milling 4, but that's very unlikely, right? You're going to be getting some, you're almost guaranteed to be getting some value from this if you cast it for 6, right? Now, if you cast it for 4, or even like you could maybe even make this cost like 3 or something. I don't know. Then like you get a random card and they get a random card. So there's that additional variance there as well. So it's like for 3, it's like a super random, reanimate. But maybe it's early enough in the game to where you can kind of make it work for you. If you cast it for 6, it's just like guaranteed value, essentially, right? I don't know. That's just kind of the way that I would probably make this work. And it's kind of neat because the creature being random means it is more of a value card rather than a targeted reanimation. And the milling actually helps there a lot. Actually, I kind of like the higher mill in this case because, like, it removes the variance of, like, they don't mill a creature, but also it increases the variance on the creature that you get back. And therefore, like, it's like a cool value card rather than like, oh, I'm reanimating this huge thing. Yes, that'll happen sometimes. Sometimes you'll cast this for 3 and you'll get a Grave Titan, right? But sometimes you'll cast this and you'll get, a couple 2/2s and like a 4/4 or something, and it's just like sick value, right, for 3 mana. And then your opponents get some stuff too. And then same thing for 6, it's just pure upside, right? So this version I like a lot better. I think the version, of course, you don't have to do exactly this. This is just the way I would personally do this. But with the way this is currently written, there's just so much variance and so many potential outcomes that it just hurts my brain, and it's too difficult to control, like what's going on, that you might as well just pull a slot machine lever and to see who wins the game, right? So I think for this version of Gambit of Temptation, I think I have to give this one a 5 out of 10. I think the potential is there. Like, I really like this particular design. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or anything, but I like the fact that this is like a nice value card that you can cast early or cast late. Whereas here, it's not really a value card. It's more like just like a slot machine, if that makes sense. Plus, your opponents get a lot of control over what's going on, and there's just way too much variance here for my liking, or I think for its own good. So 5 out of 10, but it has the bones of a good card. I think with a little reworking, it could be a neat card. So yeah, that is my review of Gambit of Temptation. 5 out of 10, but potential for much higher if it was reworked some. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.